Hey guys, it's my turn. I'm putting out two videos today because I'm behind and I want to catch up. So it is still Mental Health Monday, and it also is Consumption Corner! Hooray! So, a twofer. I guess you guys are getting a twofer today. I wanted to talk to you about a book, actually a few books that I've read. So I went through a divorce process last year, as many of you are well aware, and very difficult, very painful. And one of the first things I did in that process was I knew I needed to start reading. Um, when encountering things that are so overwhelmingly new for me and intense and emotional and painful, I knew that I needed guidance, and I knew that along with counseling, I wanted to study, I wanted to learn, I wanted to get more information on myself, on the other ways of thinking about stuff. And I guess a little bit of a side note here, I do want to say to everyone watching, uh, anything that you have a problem with, anything that you're suffering from, anything that you're going through right now, I just want to say that there's a book about it, okay? So if you're horribly depressed, all right, Amazon.com, website, you might have heard of it, has books for every single type of thing that you might go through. So if you're horribly depressed, there are books, and I'm talking like, so for you who is depressed, you can buy a book, and it's not going to be a book that's just like, hey, be happier. It's going to be like, hey, I understand that you have trouble getting out of bed in the morning. I understand that all the things that you're supposed to be doing to have a good, happy life, like exercise, get sunlight, do meaningful work every day, have a bunch of friends, isn't naturally available to you. That's why you're here in the first place. So I just want to encourage everyone that if you're in a place that you feel stuck, you feel just an overwhelming amount of pain or suffering, there is an option for you to literally go read about it. And this is where my story begins as I hit my divorce process. In fact, we weren't even divorced yet, and I knew I needed to start reading. And my counselor recommended a book by Harriet Lerner. It actually wasn't this one. It was called The Dance of Intimacy. This one's The Dance of Connection. But I devoured it. I probably read it in 2 days or something. And, I mean, not that long of a book, but a couple hundred pages or something. And I just want to highly recommend Harriet Lerner. So this lady is like, she's like this wise guru sage type person who's kind of your aunt slash grandma slash just religious leader. Like this lady, I'm not doing a very good job, but effectively in this book she breaks down a bunch of Bowenian family theory concepts, as I believe that to be correct. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, if someone sees this and knows something different. But basically, a lot of concepts like birth order, family history, family of origin, triangles. Every relationship being actually a triangle between you, another person, and a third person, like a boyfriend, a girlfriend, and the boyfriend's father. Like that's a triangle, and that's a system of some kind. Um, and just understanding all of the different things that can come up. I mean, I just riffing right now. I did no mental preparation where I didn't write anything out, but some of the things that I loved most about the book, right away they talk about something called reactivity versus proactivity, and how in relationships we encounter situations where we kind of tense up and we immediately want to say you're wrong, or here's why, or this is why you should have done that differently, or what have you. And she talks very clearly about how there's nothing from a reactive space that really is going to make any situation easier or better. And she talks at length about moving from places of reactivity to proactivity and how we do that. And usually places of reactivity are around wounds. Usually something is triggered inside of us. If I believe that I'm not enough, and my my older brother comes to me and he says, Jordan, man, you really, you're just not accomplishing your dreams. You're never really going to amount to much. I would become reactive on a statement like that. I would say, "Oh, what is he saying? That hurts me. I already believe I'm not enough, and you're coming at me." And so I would not respond well. I would yell at him. I'd be angry at him or whatever. But a proactive would being able to move from that reactivity to a proactive approach. I think being mindful, being aware of my feelings in the moment, being mindful that he has some sort of purpose in saying that. And then I come back a few weeks later in my hypothetical situation and I say, hey, Austin, thanks, Austin, for letting me use you. This is totally not a true story. Austin loves me a lot. But hey, Austin, you said I'm not amounting to any of my dreams. What's going on with that? And he's like, well, actually, I've just had a hard few months of work and I feel like I haven't been, doing well with my dreams. And I was taking it out on you and projecting on you. And, a reactive response where I went for the jugular in response and kind of tried to tear him down, or any of us, tearing a parent down, a relationship partner down, that just begets more reactivity. I see this all the time in friends' relationships where one person's negative statement or negative behavior just incurs in us this deep need for retributive justice, to hit back and to hit hard, and in relationships. So I ask myself regularly, even in all the situations I find myself, am I behaving in a proactive way? Am I behaving in a reactive way? Another really interesting scenario. This one's pretty interesting. I think a lot of us know that both sides of this equation is overfunctioning and underfunctioning in relationships. And basically, when I was an addict, I would often underfunction in relationships. There was, maybe due to misconstruing my Christian theology, or maybe I understood it correctly, I don't really know. I think I put a lot of focus on getting to the point where I was in a relationship, getting to the point where I was in a marriage, and less focus on how that's just sort of the starting gun and the starting gate. And so I would chronically underfunction as an addict, where I would be playing hours and hours of video games and not really doing anything that constitutes a worthwhile, wonderful relationship. And so oftentimes I would find relationship partners that would overfunction because they would be doing the work for both of us. Also, remind me, you and I, YouTube, should talk about, there's an incredible series of articles on emotional labor. You should Google that. Emotional labor is the term. Basically just things like caring about family members and friends, knowing people's birthdays, setting up dates, all these sorts of things that any relationship partner can do, but more often than not, it's the female in heterosexual relationships. But I would underfunction. I wouldn't do any emotional labor type work. I would just kind of do my own addict things, and then the moment that and we didn't have much conflict. Because it was working, and my relationship partner would do all the work. And then the moment that things escalated and something was wrong, that was when I became an overfunctioner, and my partner said, I've been hustling for years. Like, when are you going to show up? And that's a kind of a brutal way to paint it against me, but it's also decently fair. So I'll let it sit out there. Obviously, there's a lot of context with everything, but I became the overfunctioner, and by then it was too late. My relationship partner was sort of already out the door, and yeah, that really sucked. But anyway, I'm smiling. Just I learned these concepts. And interesting enough, those two tie into the chaser and the distancer, right? So we all have these as well, right? So going gets tough. Argument happens in a relationship, and you get the one person who just wants to talk. That's me. I just want to talk through everything. I want to figure everything out. How are you feeling? How am I feeling? Are we totally on the same page? Have I talked for 2 hours about every single little detail that I was thinking of when I made these decisions? Or maybe that I retroactively have come up with now that I'm thinking about my actions? And then there's the person who's like, okay, like either more often than not, I just need to be heard. I understand you have some reasonings, but hey, what you did was shitty. I'm sorry. Like, you had a great reason for doing something that felt shitty to me. Good. It still felt shitty. Or, hey, I don't process out loud, or I don't take 2 hours of talking about the same thing and not feel totally emotionally exhausted. And so there's people who really need to kind of draw close in conflict, and there's people who need to distance. And here's the funniest thing about it. Um, I think my ex relationship partner and I were actually the same. We both kind of wanted to hit things on the head. But in any relationship, someone's going to get one side of the spectrum and someone's going to get the other. Or it might even vary on issue to issue. Someone will say, I was in the right here. I really want to talk about this. Another person will either be, not interested in talking about it, or maybe they feel slightly embarrassed, or maybe it's just, they're just over it. They're just done talking about it. And so I'm curious about you guys. Do you find this paradigm in your own lives? Do you have in your relationships the tendency to be the distancer or the pursuer? Obviously, that paradigm even exists in infatuation and before relationships start too. Are you someone that people are attracted to and kind of reach out to you, or are you somebody that you're constantly seeking to start their relationship with someone new? Are you the overreactor, or excuse me, are you the reactive person, or are you more proactive in the way that you deal with conflict as it arises? So she goes through all of these and more. I mean, she talks about triangles, how more often than not, you'll have a relationship between siblings, but more often than not, it's the siblings and a parent, and the way that parent influences that relationship. There's so many different things that she covers. And so much is about, another concept, over focusing on the other and under focusing on the self. Man, I'm so glad that her words were just so impactful to me that I can riff on this. It's been 6 months since I read it, but I can recall these with absolute clarity. And when things go awry in a relationship, the immediate tendency is to say, well, like the other person, clearly I know the other person's flaws, and here's what they were, it was blah, 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 blah. And, Jordan, what were your flaws? Well, I played some computer games. Other than that, I was a rock star. And it's like, no. A relationship ends, or, a relationship has conflict. It's 50-50. And that gets really hard as you get into some of the more difficult stuff. And obviously, I think I would say 50-50 up until a point. Children are excluded from this. Children don't have a lot of options. Adults who have been abused, who are in abusive relationships and have not learned self-care, they're responsible, but at the same time they're not, because it's so hard for them to activate their autonomy and use it. So I would say, degree of salt there, or degree of take a grain of salt, a degree of not holding everyone fully accountable there, but more often than not, normally functioning adults are responsible, and so when a relationship ends, it's both parties' fault, even if there was one clear party that did the ending, or one clear party that refused to work on themselves, because we all have choices, right? We have the choice to stay or to leave. We have the choice to work on ourselves or to not work on ourselves. We have the choice to try to make it up with the partner we currently have, or we have the choice to ditch it and hopefully find someone better, or just swear off relationships in general and just hope that that we don't need one. And I'm talking in the context of romantic relationships, but this is true for family relationships as well. It's true for friendships. When we have conflict in our families, and we have all these paradigms as well. Are you pursuing your father, and are you pursuing what he will allow you to do and to connect with him, or are you just letting his stoic demeanor push you away from reaching out to him, from trying to melt the ice caps in his heart? All of these things are incredibly important to consider in our relationships. So this is Consumption Corner. I can't believe how long I can talk about these books. So the author is Harriet Lerner. Okay, she's written a bunch of Dance of books. She got the Dance of Anger, the Dance of Intimacy, the Dance of Connection. I think she has the Dance of Fear. And she really comes deeply into these emotions and comes into exploring them completely and comprehensively, moving through them, and then learning about our tendencies as human beings. And we all think we're very unique snowflakes, and yet at the same time we regularly participate in patterns that are very easily identifiable and traceable, and to say, oh wow, that thing makes me upset, it makes me hard to communicate with, which leads to these situations. And and so on and so forth. So Harriet Lerner, check her out. I believe she's still living in New York. I would love to meet her and see her in real life someday. If anyone wants to pay for an extravagant birthday gift for me someday, oh my gosh, to like be able to fly and like see something she talks, like one of her talks or something. But yeah, that is it. That is Consumption Corner paired with Health Monday. Love you guys. It's my turn. Peace out. I suck at pressing the button at the end of these videos.